So let me talk about some stuff today. Now, let me go back a bit. 25 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, I'd say. I came out of, graduated uni, got a job, corporate job, software development, really thinking a lot, mentally tough job, I thought, graduate, you're set, go do a job, chill out, have drinks at lunchtime, that kind of life, but it wasn't. It was 6 months, I was into my new job and I was working pretty hard. I was like, wow. I get home pretty much every night and just crash because you're just mentally drained, and it's the first major job you had out of uni. And I was like, what in the world have I got myself into? But anyway, you get used to it and so on. But then you start looking for things that give you some sort of relief. That's how I think of it, some sort of relief. I wasn't expecting it. And I know people reference Karate Kid as well as one of their starting with Bonsai, and remember Karate Kid and the Junipers and things like that. For me, I do remember that, but then I go, I saw a book with maples with red leaves and in bonsai pots, and it's like, what the hell is this? How pretty is this? And then you start remembering Karate Kid and how they do this and do that, and it's like, wow, that's really something interesting I want to get into and have a look at and experience. So you start buying sticks in pots. A lot of people went through the sticks in pot phase. You do it where most of us do it. It's quite entertaining. So going through that, and then all of a sudden, because I lived in Newport most of my life at that age, and this club used to be known as the Sunshine Bonsai Club, if you didn't know that. And the Sunshine Bonsai Club used to meet in Yarraville at the old, what was that, a community centre that was an old school. The doors don't even lock. It was just a really interesting place. And there was a bonsai show pretty much straight away when I started doing bonsai. It was crazy, right? It was perfect timing. So I went to it, and guess what happened? You go nuts in the sales area, don't you? You just buy everything. It's insane. You buy in the nurseries. You go, oh, that's $50 here. It's $5. What the hell? It's one of those great little. You just get, and then guess what happens? You join the club.
What year was that?
I don't remember. 90 something. 98, somewhere around there. It was really a little while ago. So get into it, get stuck into it, and just loving the club, being part of it. There's probably about 20 people in the meeting, I think. I remember around there, 20 to 30 people we used to have. A meeting with people. But then, as I said, you start experimenting. You start trying different trees, trying every variety. I had 200-300 trees, easy. More, probably more. That's when I started. More, because you're trying everything. Right? And eventually, you start to just move away from everything and start to enjoy certain species. Now, black pines, I really do enjoy them because they're challenging, but they're very rewarding as well. But then I love Shimpaku, is probably my ultimate favourite, Shimpaku, junipers and maples. I love maples as well. But pines, let's talk about pines. That's where I was coming to. So pines, I think they're actually quite easy because you just have to follow a process. It's not harder than that, just following a process to work on pines. Now, we can talk about how you develop pines. I'm not going to really do that today. Developing trunks. If you have a stick, forget about doing anything with that until it's much bigger, right? I'm not going to talk about how you develop trees. The best person who develops trees is Harmony. He's not here today. Barlow ones that he develops, the way he quickly grows black pines so fast and so thick and so quickly, I don't think he can be beaten, to be honest. Right? He's the best grower. I'm not going to talk about development because he's the best. Refinement-wise, refinement is when you've got, the trees in the exhibition, the black pines in the exhibition, they're refined trees already, and it's keeping them refined and getting them better and better. That's called refinement stage. That's when all you have to do is, when you've got trees at that stage, I just work on them twice a year. You only work on them twice a year, to be honest. You work on them in December, cut all the candles off, and then in May-ish, in autumn, you start to bud select. I don't want to go into that either. It's a bit more technical. And we've done a number of talks on that as well. We've got articles on that, but we can do that another time. But today's more about the bit in between, okay? The bit in between meaning, how do you go from something that's looking good, you've grown it really well, it's got the trunk, it's got this, but how do you get it to the next bit where it's going to be in the refinement stage? Okay, so it's that transition phase. That's where I kind of want to focus on. I did have a little presentation going. Alright, so this is just a bit about black pines. Also, red pine sits in this category, and also sometimes people think radiata pines do, and I do sometimes think that that's correct. So these can produce 2 lots of candles. I'll talk about candles. These can produce 2 flushes of growth a season. So this grows in spring, you cut all the candles off, it'll bring another bunch of candles. And we'll talk about candles in a minute. So I said development and refinement, we're not going to really talk about, but that's just briefly what I described about refinement. I work on them twice a year. December, cut all the candles off. In May, I bud select back to 2. But don't really talk about that, just give you an idea of black pines. But what I want to get to is this. So just for the new people, there's a very simple explanation of what a candle is and what needles are. Okay, just remember those things. Candles and needles. Now, question, if the candles were left to grow, what would they become? Quentin can't answer. If you leave the candles grow, let the candles grow, what do they become? Branches, easy, right? So if you're going to let it grow, you're going to get a branch. If you let all those 3, 4, 5 grow, what happens in that spot? You're going to get 5 branches growing, right? And you get swelling. We'll talk about that in a minute. What's the main issue with pines or black pines, or most trees actually? One of the main issues with pines especially, what's my number one issue with them and problem with them is what? I think you guys almost picked that up.
Reducing the needles.
That's one thing, but more about design-wise. Who's got an idea? Swelling, what's the swelling do? Whorls. They're called whorls. Okay? Now, whorls. They're the number one thing I see when people bring trees of black pines into the workshops. Whorls. And I'll show you what that means. This is a terrible picture, but you can imagine a trunk and 5 candles going from the one spot. So that's what black pines do. From one spot, they'll shoot out multiple branches. And if you let all those branches grow, the trunk goes like this, goes fat, goes back in. Horrible look. I see it all the time. So you've got to address that early as well. Don't let that happen. What's my next bit? Question. How many branches in this picture do we leave on the tree to grow? One. What do you mean by 1? Who said 1? Why?
One at any location. Well, you want 2 at any location with your branch and your branch.
Correct. So you leave the trunk and 1 branch. Okay, the trunk is considered a branch in a way. All right, what's this one? All right, here's another one. This is at the top. There's 5 at the top. Well, there's 4 in the picture. How many branches in this picture are you going to leave and grow on the tree? 2. Okay, so I know it's always back to 2. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get to. In any one spot, you can only have 2 branches on a black pine. Okay, otherwise you cause swelling at that point where those buds have come out and those candles come out. All right, so that's the number one issue I've always found with pines. People bringing them in, and you always see it, and there'll be a reverse taper and all this other stuff that we've got. What else is there? All right, that's it. That's really the black pine stuff. Now we'll talk about this tree, these trees, or this tree. We're going to start on this tree, okay? But what I want to try and this was more of going to teach you guys the way I approach trees. Now everyone does it differently. Everyone has a different way to do pines. Everyone has a different way to work on trees. This is my way. So it's a teaching thing on how I go about working on trees, styling trees, and so on. First thing I do when you're looking at a tree, you look at what the good features are of the tree. What are the good points of the tree? But sometimes if you're not knowledgeable, what is a good thing about a tree? What's good about a tree? Does that make sense? What makes a good tree a good tree? So we'll talk about that. Then there's bad parts of the tree. Bad points. Okay? Bad points, you can get rid of them sometimes, or you can hide them. That's pretty much all you can really do. Okay? There's not much else you can do with the bad points. The good points, you can enhance them, make them look better, show them off, etc. Then we'll look at where's the front of the tree, right guys? You saw the show. Every tree had a front. Some trees are really well styled. You can look at them at any angle, like Quentin's, but honestly, you need to have a front. You can see it all the time. Front of a tree. You've got to identify the front. But how do you do that? How do you identify the best front? My starting points are the nabari. Nabari is the root base. The root base is probably the number one importance of a tree to get it to pick a front. Okay? The nabari, the roots, the way they are spread out, they hold the surface. gives you the age, okay? Gives you the age of the tree, shows off this is an old tree, that's an old tree because it's beautiful, beautiful roots. The next thing is the trunk and movement in the trunk, okay? You want some good movement in the trunk. You don't want to see a reverse taper where it goes fat and then goes skinny and then goes fat again. You know, you don't want that. You want the best line, best movement, and so on. So that's the other bit. Trunk and movement is my next bit. And then you look at branches and how the apex fits in with that. Branches is probably one of my lower criteria because branches can be moved, wired, bent in every direction. You can really crank them around. As long as they're not too big and fat, you can really get them around. So there's always a saying that it doesn't matter where the branch starts or where it finishes. It doesn't matter where it starts or where it finishes. Okay, so you can use it, manipulate it, move it, and so on. Apexes are the one thing that I'd like people to get better at doing. Apexes aren't one single branch. It's a crown of multiple branches that make an apex, okay? That's something that you want to try and learn as well. The last thing is probably the hardest bit, imagination and creativity. You've got to imagine and envision what the tree is going to be, okay? And as I said, every single person in here will have a different idea about this tree, how it should be styled, that tree. Sorry. So, imagination's hard. Okay. Black pine, let's have a look at it. I'm going to give it a little spin. Don't worry about the wire on it. I had to do some pre-wiring because I wouldn't finish it in time. I want people to call out, what do you think are some good features about this tree? Let me spin it. I know we can't zoom, unfortunately, but have a look back on YouTube, you'll be able to see a bit more detail what we're doing. If I give it a little spin around, tell me what you guys think are some of the good features on this tree. Anyone?
I'll start with the Nabari.
Nabari, right? Nabari. Remember we said Nabari, the base, the roots? Are the roots good on this side? Not really. I know if you can have a look, you're not really. But if I spin around to this side, what do you guys see? Amazing, amazing Nabari, right? Look at the spread of roots, okay? I know you want to come closer. If you want to come closer, come closer. But amazing roots on this side of the tree, okay? For me, I have to at least start at this point, okay? Now I move to the next phase. What's my next phase? Trunk and movement. Okay. There's actually, this trunk has lots of good movement in any way you look at it. But again, if we pick this as the base, as the front, this is the Nabari, the movement's pretty good on the trunk too, isn't it? It's actually got movement, moves in different directions, it goes zigzagging, which is fine. It's actually quite good too. So that's 2 out of my 3 criteria that this tree's already met as a front at least. Okay, it's already met 2 of the criteria that I'm looking for. Now, branches and the apex, I can always wire the branches and always wire the apex, right? Not a problem. So let's talk about some bad points about the tree. Can anyone see any negative points about this tree? Or something that's not, there's one really obvious thing, and I want you guys to really pick it up if you can.
Is there a little bit of swelling?
There is some swelling at the top, but that'll be okay, it's not too bad.
Some thick branches on the top?
There you go, there's a good point.
No crown.
Some actually very thick branching high up on the tree. Now, the obvious one is this one. Have a look at the thickness of that compared to the trunk. It's actually very quite big, right? It's never, even if I try and bend this all the way around, it's not going to move. Like I could possibly do it, but why bother when it's such a thick branch and it's not the best. There's something in here, we probably need the camera in here, but if you probably can't see it in here, right in here, there's a branch, the trunk's out like this and the branch goes like that, horizontally this way, and it's really thick too. Not a very good look. It doesn't move nicely and gently the way the rest of the tree's moving. Okay?
Dave, do you want to just bring it around for the camera?
Yep. I don't have to. Oh, you can see it on the video, that's right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Is it better that side? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, just spin it anti-clockwise the other way.
Other way, this way.
Yeah,
You see
good.
That?
Yeah, that's good.
Although it's got a lot of foliage on it, the branch is horizontally 90 degrees from the trunk. Not attractive. It's not a nice feature. In my mind, it's not a nice feature. Other people could like it, but not me. Okay. So what are we up to? We've kind of seen the bad points, kind of got the good points. have a rough idea what we're looking at. Okay, so there are some other thicker ones up here too, so they're not the best either.
David, what about the fact that, I don't know whether it's a bad point or whether it's just my eye, it's leaning back. If this is your preferred front, it's leaning a long way back. Or is that just planting angle?
I think once we get it at the new planting angle, it will solve a lot of issues. So now we're up to the next bit, the fourth bit. What you imagine and envision the tree to be. Now, this is where your own personal taste comes on the tree. For me, I would like to do, I have a really nice, I've got to sit down for this, I've got a really nice branch, extremely good, right? And there's a couple of issues with it, but I'll show you what the issues are in a minute. Really nice branch here, great movement in the trunk.
Irene, you're loud. Sorry. Well, the tree is up.
So we've got, thanks Barry. So we've got a really good branch here. We've got a very bad branch here. We've got a really bad top here, if we use this as the front. But we've got a really good branch in here too. So my imagination starts to go, really what I can do with this tree is some sort of, I want to enhance this Nabari. I want to enhance the movement in this tree. So what I need to do is, to my mind, I don't have this little stand box, I have to figure it out. I'm going to plant it further this way. So now what you can see is the roots are hanging on for life in a way. The tree's been knocked about this side and been smashed on this side. The tree's moving in this direction, trying to tell a story. That's my imagination taking over, okay? This is how I want to see the tree look. I've got a rough angle there of what it's going to look like, but we've got to work towards it. Oh, Jesus, it's going to knock right over top. Again, bonsai is very subjective. It's what you envision. Different people are going to see different things in a tree. So I want to enhance this, get some more movement into this trunk. It's not straight anymore, it's going this way, got good movement, and so on. And now you can actually see some really unattractive parts of the tree, can't you? Do you see that? How bad that looks? All right, it's pretty obvious. And then you can see, you know this is too thick, okay? So what I want to do is create a semi-cascade, I guess you can kind of classify it as. There's a really good white pine, even though I worked on it, a really good white pine in the show that has this kind of look. It was all dead this side and the tree came over this way. Same kind of idea I've got on this tree that I'd like to do. So what do we do first? Well, I've wired the branches that I'm going to keep. Okay, now you kind of understood why there's wire on it. And now you can see why there's even what's called guy wires already planted. Because if I had to wire this tree now, it'd be half an hour to an hour of wiring, which is boring. I prefer to do it now, show you guys my thinking of this tree, how I went about choosing what I needed to choose, and now I get to actually start to finalise all the bends, put them in places, and then I'll show you some issues that we've got to deal with as well, and go back to those whirl issues, the multiple branches, how do you choose which one you're going to keep? Alright, so what are we going to do now then? Who knows what we're going to do? I've got my branch cutters, what do you reckon I'm going to do? I'm going to cut all the branches.
Gin.
Yes. Gin's okay on black pines. I only like short gins on black pines. I don't like very long gins on black pines. I don't think they look as good. Who's Ruby? Alright, so
Branch selection.
yeah, some going to cut the branches off that I'm not going to keep. I'm not going to keep, obviously you guys know I'm not going to keep this. You can see now how ugly it is. Okay, especially if I chose that as a front.
Could you do a shari on those thick branches and take some of it away?
No, I just don't like them. I just don't see them in my design. As I said, Tom, you would like that certain different design. I'm sure Quentin's got a different design in his mind. I'm sure Jared's probably got another design. Kenny's looking at me strange. He might have another design for it. But as I said, it's very subjective to what you... Maybe I've got a preference to semi-cascade smaller trees, which I really like to do. You probably see that a lot in my trees anyway. Nice small semi-cascaders, or small trees, but that's what I like. So we're going to start getting rid of some branches. We're going to get rid of these. I'll leave a gin. I'll show you what that means to people. But I'll leave something and then we'll cut it off later. That was the wrong one. Oh, by the way, these trees belong to Rob. And he said I'm okay to do whatever I want to them. So thanks, Rob. Now, already you can see a different tree already, right? That's gone. Less branches is better, usually. Okay, you don't have to have too many branches. Sorry, I have to look what I'm doing. Can't show you guys. There's another issue with a branch like this as well. I'll show you this one too before I cut it off. Can you see how towards the top there's so much space before there's a branch? There's so much. Like you can pretty much, maybe Han can get backbutting on this, but not too many other people can get backbutting on it.
Could you craft?
If you really love the branch, you could graft, but I don't love it. So there's absolutely no reason why I want to keep it. Especially if I want to do a semi-cascade with it.
This is a really interesting juxtaposition because you usually say, oh, all those years of growth, I don't want to cut them off.
Yes, usually on my YouTube it's different, right? But I already studied the tree enough to know what I was going to do. Alright, so you start to see what's happening. Much less branches, you can see my idea of what I'm going to do. There are a few problems we're going to deal with, and I'll show you how I'm going to deal with them. Now I will try, you'll have to video this, Barry, but in here, in this branch, right, it's a really nice branch, but it has 1, 2, 3 coming out of the same spot. This branch is in the middle of them, so it's fine. It's not actually part of it. So there's 3 branches. We've got 1 here, 1 in the middle, and 1 over here at the back. Now, it's going to be really hard, but you guys can try and look. So I'm going to keep this one, obviously I've wired it. I'm going to keep that one, obviously I've wired it. Now, why did I choose those branches? Because if this is the front of the tree, that one comes more to the front, that one comes slightly to the front in the middle, and this one is right at the back, which I can use this smaller branch to then position at the back and fill that space. Now I know that's a lot to think about, but the other point is this branch, you can see this branch again, it's got absolutely no branching at all until the end, and then it's an absolute horrible mess. Now Barry, you're going to have to try and video that for the video later, but it's actually horrible. It's like a branch, and then it's a nice branch like this, and then it goes like this, fat, bubbly, and the foliage is out there. So it's an ugly branch anyway. I can then use the one higher up, smaller, much more foliage. I don't know if you can see all that foliage on this branch. Much nicer to make a back branch if I need one just there. So replacing an ugly branch with a smaller, much healthier, much more foliage branch is the way to go. So I get rid of that. Does that make sense, everyone? So I'll cut that off. All right. Again, another one is up here. This branch, you guys see this branch here? It's almost as thick as the main branch that it's coming out of. Okay? Too heavy at the top. We don't need that heaviness at the top. We just need some small branches at the top, really, to make a new apex, a new rounded head, and so on. Again, not an attractive branch. I've left this one on for now. I might leave it for now, just now. I might use it, but I'm not planning to, because if you guys can see again, no branching at all until the tips. Okay? And I can actually use this branch and use all these smaller branches to fill in that, so you made my decision for me, okay? But that's it, look at that. Look at the tree, how it's changed. Can you guys see now what I'm doing? How I've come up with my thinking and design? The gins we'll deal with, no problem. But now, the other issue, my main issue with this tree right now, I can easily wire this down. I've got a guy wire, that's going to bend down, this is going to bend down, this is going to bend. I can do all that work quite easily. I've got guy wires here, and we just tighten them. What's my main issue that I'm really concerned about that I need to fix? Does anyone, I know Quentin will see it, but I don't know, the others, can you see what my other main issue? The guy wire is probably giving it away. There's another guy wire on the tree here that's giving away my other issue. It's this gap to this branch. It's too far for me. Okay, it's just too, the space is way too high. I want to get that down. I want to really crank this, try and crank this down as much closer to this branch. That's one of my main issues. But first I'll put this in position. Okay, first I'll line my first main branch, wire it out, and then I'm going to try and bend that down with the guy wire to get it down, because I won't be able to bend it with wire. It's just won't move without RAF here and all this. I wasn't going to go to that extreme when I can do it with the guy wire. Now I'm going to have to, now you can see all these guy wires I've got on this tree. I probably want to end up with a much more branch probably down here somewhere. I want to get it to about this point, around a little bit, something like that, we'll work on it. But I've got to get into it, I've got to look at it myself before I all the guy wires is copper. I've used copper for guy wiring because it's much more stronger than aluminium, and especially how much I'm going to bend. Now I've got one here hooked underneath the pot, okay? And I've got another one here hooked to a piece of wire here, which I'll bring this tree forward, closer to the trunk, closer to the front, closer to the middle, sorry. And this one will pull the tree down with. And I'll show you, let me try and do it. I use my gin pliers, any pliers really, you don't need gin pliers, but I use my gin pliers. I might have to get a volunteer role, but we'll see.
David, you're pulling it down with a fair bit of force. Your guy wires, are they on the branch, or have you hooked them onto the wire that you've got there?
Yeah, it's a good, excellent question. So I've used copper wire to wire this tree because I was going to actually, it holds better and can try and bend the branches much easier with using a much smaller gauge. But my guy wires are hooked onto the actual wire, not the trunk. If I hook that onto the trunk, it'll just eat into the trunk and destroy it. Okay, into the bark. But this little wire is actually hooked onto the really thick copper wire. Okay, and that's how I'm doing it. Thanks, Jared. That was a good question. That was a good one. So all I'm doing is bending the branch. I know the whole thing's moving, but bending the branch and pulling and twisting with my gin pliers. Pulling and twisting. I'm not going to be able to. Let's try showing you what I'm doing. Pull and twist. Okay, I'll have to do it this way. Sorry. But that's all I'm really doing, okay, pulling and twisting. Quentin's board already.
Yep.
So Rob, do you want to come and give me a hand here? I'll get the owner of the tree to come and just hold the pot for me from that front. Unfortunately, just hold it down. Yes, we've done it many times. So we've done a massive cedar. We're at We've done a massive cedar for Rob before, and the cedar was as tall as what, 6 foot tall, easy. And we made a cascade out of it. So if you know what a cascade is, yeah, it was brilliant. The tree's hopefully in the show next year. Rob?
It'll be in the show next year.
All right. I think the other bit. Well, that's pretty good. I like it. All right, cool. All right, so I've got it to maybe where I was saying to you guys, probably the angle I've got it to. But you can see it's kind of hanging down at the moment. I've got to fix those branches up. But I'm just getting the structure right. I just want to see if I need to.
Now they get in between drill.
Yeah, so that's why I had to set it first to get it now. So the gap's even bigger now. If I wire that down and then wire the other one down, I have to do twice as much work. I don't want to do that. I just want to do it once. I'm just going to tighten this one up. I don't think I'll need it, but just want to hold on for now. Happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Have you got something around the branch to protect it from the wire digging in?
The wire is hooked onto the wire. So the guy wire is actually hooked onto the wire, not the actual arc.
Yeah, I couldn't see.
That's right. So in this area down here, in all these branches down here, it actually forks off really well. So it might grow a branch like this, and then out of this point it grows two, and then out of this point it grows another two, another. It doesn't really do the 3, 3, 3. I was just going to have a look, see if there were any like that, so that I'd show you a bit better. Actually, there is one. For example, it's going to be very hard to see, but in here, in this branch, there's one there, and one that's growing up the top. So it's like this, and there's one that's growing up like this. Which one do you think I'm going to keep? Which two do you think I'm going to keep? Two like this, and one going up like this. The two flat ones. Does that make sense? So they'll grow out, and they'll make branches two. Then at this 4, 8, 16. That's how I ultimately want it to work, but that's a good little one there. So usually now I'll just go through and take out those ones that are multiples in the one spot. There's a few of them. What I'll also do is just wire this. Here's another, going to be very hard to see, but I've got 1, 2, 3. Now I've wired the two I'm going to keep, and I'm going to cut off this one because there's 3 in one spot. I've got a branch in here that can fill in this gap nicely where this branch is. Okay, so that's how I do it. So if I can fill in a gap with another branch, and then this branch comes in and fills it. And it's not there's no 3 more at one point, it's 2, and there's one that's further back filling in the gap. I hope that makes sense. Any questions? I just have to set the branch now. All I'm doing is pretty much making fans, like a fan shape, okay? So what I'm really doing right now, spreading them out, making them look nice like a fan, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, all around. If there's anything I don't like, I'll cut it off. Now I won't cut the candles, I won't cut these off at this time of year. I won't do that. I'll let them grow in spring, give the tree its growth, let it be healthy, let it be strong, and so on. Again, don't do this kind of work on unhealthy trees. They've got to be healthy, and these trees are super healthy to be able to cope with this work that's been done on them. Again, there's lots of 3s in every spot. Lots of 3s, and all I'm doing is getting rid of those. Now the reason I wired this tree fully, obviously, is to get it done quicker. But also we'll talk about this tree as well. I want you guys to do the same process we went through, designing the tree, how we designed it, how I went through designing it. All I'm doing is getting rid of the third little branch.
How many times a year is it safe to take off the big branches, Dave, do the heavy prunes?
Excellent question. I personally, the only time I don't do it is springtime. That sounds really strange, but maybe not.
Sorry, what was the question?
Barry said, when's a good time to do the major cuts on black pines? I don't do anything to black pines, don't even touch them in spring. So meaning, when they start to move, the candles start moving, remember the candles I talked about? The candles, once they start growing and they start really pushing out the growth and really strong, if you cut a branch, the branch is going to bleed and bleed and bleed. Okay, so I'll just avoid spring in total. If I want to do a major cut like this time of year is fine, because this time of year you also do your bud selecting and all this other stuff. So for me, as long as I avoid spring, personally, spring from August to November, end of November. December is when I do my candle cutting with my candles. So as long as I avoid those months, I can do this any other time. Does that make sense? Is that right, everyone? So you pretty much 7 months of the year you can probably do this. Yeah, I just avoid spring because it'll bleed. Like anything, you cut a trident maple in springtime, it's going to bleed everywhere, and you probably kill the tree. That's how you try it. If you want to try it. But yeah, avoid the spring, because that's when they're really growing, pushing out the growth, the sap's moving, you cut it, the sap's going to keep moving, just going to everywhere. It looks terrible.
What about the candles? Would you cut the candles in spring or?
You cut candles in December, okay, because then you get the second flush. So that's the refinement stage I was talking about before, but I didn't want to go into that tonight. But cutting candles is, once you cut candles in December, the black pines, they push more growth. So at that cut point, it could push out 3, 2, 5 new buds that are candles at one point. You don't want 5, right? You don't want 3, you only want 2, right? So in December, it'll push for 6 months until May, and then in May, you go back to 2. That's it. That's all you do for black pines.
So are you talking about cutting candles off entirely, or just to the point where you want your next branch ramification?
Well, you cut the actual new candle
Off entirely,
Yeah.
the base.
Cut the new candle. Because then it will grow a little bit of a branch. Anyway, it's a bit, there's more to it, but the simplest answer is, cut all the candles and then bud select the 2. But that's a different topic for a different day, because it will get so complex and I don't want to confuse you guys. But it's actually simpler than you think. And once you get into the hang of doing it all the time, like just December, cut all the candles, May, bud select the 2, you actually get into a good routine, and the tree actually they improve immensely. I've got now working on this back branch in here, I've got the same issue, 1, 2, it's actually 1, 2, 3 in the one spot. So I'm going to take this guy out. And that's all I'm doing, taking out the 3rd or 4th or 5th, whatever it is, how many there are, and then just making fan shapes with everything else. The other thing I do is I don't always put, I don't know if you can see, that is on a layer, that's one layer, like it's a pad. This one is slightly lower, if you can see, this one's slightly higher. Can you guys see that? Not just one big huge pad, it's actually, this one should be lower, this one's a little bit lower, not too much, and this one's a bit higher. Okay, so they're all on different levels, because they start to fill out and you have these nice pads. There's a nice little branch in here. See this little one here? It's really nicely set up. Make another pad in there. Okay, another different level. The other problem with this tree, it's got needles that are very different. Some are really long, some are really short. It just takes time to reduce those. Okay, just be patient with pines. Could use some more wire on it. Kind of happy roughly where that is, roughly. I want to get stuck into this, try and get this down, okay? Might have to get Rob to come back, but that's what we'll see. Just to hold the... Because you can see now how far it is from that now, right? and it just doesn't look right. It looks so far away. I want it to be a nice compact tree, and I should be able to move that. I should be able to move that. Just hold on, yeah. That's what I've got here. Great thing is about black pines is it's actually very flexible. Even at this stage, even at this thickness, it's actually really flexible.
How long does it then take to set if it's that flexible?
A year,
A year.
6 months to a year. Are you in a rush? They use nothing for a black pine, really. It's a season of growing.
Well, I thought like the seed is really flexible, but it just springs back.
No, yeah, black pines would not spring back. That's how we're going. Is that going closer? What do you reckon? It's getting down, isn't it?
Yep.
Looking really good. Probably got too much of an angle. I have to reduce the angle. I think I had it too much of an angle. I think it doesn't need so much of an angle now. You can change your mind all the time, it doesn't matter. As long as you don't cut the branch. Alright, that's it. I think Rob's going to be happy. I think he is. Again, all I'm doing is reducing back to 2. I'll try and do this as quick as I can so I can get onto the other tree. Now the beauty is, as I said, they're very flexible. So this branch in here was more to the side, but I don't have any back branches here. So I'm actually swinging it around to the back. So I can actually very flexibly move that right around. Now it's in the back.
Have you loosely wired them? Those smaller ones?
I wired some of the small ones, didn't wire all yet.
Was it loose? Have you wired them, tight, loose? Just thinking of, with growth and everything like that.
Just normal.
Will it bite in too much?
Yeah, just normal. It doesn't. With pines, if it bites in, it grows out so quick. You don't even have to worry about it. It really does. I find black pines, if they're cutting a bit, within a couple of years, it's gone. Don't do it to trident maples or Japanese maples. It takes much longer to get rid of.
How well do black pines back bud? Will it back bud having opened up all of this to the light?
Yeah, and I took so much growth off it. So this tree, these roots know, I think of it like this. The roots of this tree have been feeding such a massive tree before, right? Those roots still think they have to feed this massive tree, right? But it's going to try and feed it next spring and go, there's so much food I've got here. Where's it all going to go? It's all going to go food, right? And it's just going to burst into all these branches. It's not going to burst into the dead branches, of course. But it still has all that energy, so it's got to push you somewhere. And that's where you're going to get backbudding. Backbudding happens when you let the tree grow so much and it's so strong and healthy, and you cut it back, those roots, for black pines, those roots have to feed something. They're going to push the energy, and that's where you get the backbudding, especially if it's younger, like this is reasonably young, you should be able to achieve it as well. Good question. Alright, so then I've set the main branch, I set the next level up here with the back one. Now I've got the apex in here. That's all I'm done, just about. You see how quick that was? Well, that was kind of quick because I half wired it. But, it isn't too bad. But the apex isn't a stick like this being up like that. Now I want to make a crown. I want to try and really make a crown or a rounded top, like, nice rounded tops on trees. So I'm going to try and put that in place. And that is all a matter of just moving little branches around to fit them in. I have to look, unfortunately. I can't show you guys and work at the same time. Who said yes, I did? Unless Barry's behind me and we can watch on the video.
Don't have to wear a GoPro on your head next time, Dave.
That's the next way to do it, isn't it? So then I've now set the next one. So I've set, you can see how the pads are developing, and I've set the next one in here. Okay, so that's at least, they're getting from big to medium to small, and now we finish off with another one at the top. Now these are quite young, so there's not much I can do at the top just yet. We just need a bit of work to build that back up.
No, what would the age of this tree be?
I have no idea. Rob, do you have an idea? Rob, how old is this tree? Any idea?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Dave, it was, I got it from a deceased estate. I didn't buy them, I just was asked to take them away, and Rob was the lucky winner of two of them. I'm guessing they were probably, I don't know, 15, 20 years old. At least that one.
At least, yeah, it's a decent sized tree, yeah. Yeah. The apex is always the hardest to get right. So it's roughly been put in another little one in here. I've got a back, a side, and a little top. Really can't do much more than let this fill out. So you can now see this whole thing is the apex, isn't it? It's made a nice, this will fill out this whole area, would make a nice crown, even though it's got nicely positioned branches in all the places. I still see 3 everywhere, so I have to get rid of it. Okay, and then I've got this bit. That's roughly, that's really the tree. That's the semi-cascade look that I was going for. Next time now to fill out and get better and look better and so on. I'm not sure about this brand, but we'll keep it. But these gins, just to clean them up, usually what I like to do is make sure when I'm going to peel the bark, so have you guys seen this before? I know if you've been around for a while, you know what's going to happen. But you can just use pliers and you can peel the bark, squash it, peel it down. Just want to see. The other little thing with black pines, what I do is when I cut branches off, I leave stubs, just short stubs, okay? Because I don't cut them flush. When you cut them flush against I don't cut that flush, because usually what I found is they naturally die off and won't actually die too far back onto the branch and risk the life of the branch. So always leave a stub here. These ones are not too bad, they're a bit too long. I can grab a little gin with them. And that's just me thinking what I would like to do, how I like to do it.
After all this work, how long do you ever repot it?
I would not repot it this season coming up. Who said that? So I wouldn't repot it this season, probably wait another year before I repot it.
You sort of get, like you were saying earlier, 12 months so the branch is set and then...
Yeah, I want it to recover. So you can push healthy black pines, but you don't want to push them too much. I have found that if you do too much work on them, they won't even put candles down, and that's risky. You want them to put candles out every year.
You might not get back funding now.
Yeah, we won't get back there. So with the gins, I wouldn't mind actually one day having a bit of shari in here, but I just ring bark. I just take the, put a cup through so I don't peel the bark, it doesn't go all the way. I haven't got big enough What I find, if you get a bit and naturally try and tear it, it's better than just cutting it off. So I'm just trying to tear a bit on from here. Looks a bit better usually. Try it this way. It did work. What do people think of gins on black pines? Has anyone got an opinion? Do you like small ones like me? I like short gins on black pines. I don't like big ones on black pines.
They're nice if they're like some trees, you see like 80% of it does look bad.
Yeah.
Depends on the tree.
I don't mind on junipers larger, longer gins. Yeah, for black pines, I don't know, just they look more older when they're short. So I just think they'll hold.
I don't think it's natural for ponds to retain dead branches for very long. It's a bit softer than it is on a juniper, so it doesn't look natural if you leave a massive gin.
Very good point.
When you look at a tree in the wild, you don't see those big dead branches.
That's right. So the shorter, the better, I reckon. This is a little thin. This one's trying to reduce the thickness. I'll just do this one and then we'll move on to the other tree. Unless you've got other questions you want to ask me about this tree.
How far after doing it do you bleach it?
Good question. I like to, these naturally kind of get, there's a little bit of fibrous stuff on there at the moment. It's quite wet. I let it dry out before I put any lime sulphur on it. So I use lime sulphur to put it. So if you come back up here and feel it, you'll see it's wet. And once it dries out, you clean it up and start lime sulphur. I wouldn't do it now. It's like, don't need it. Only when you really, I mainly mind lime sulphur my display trees a couple of weeks before the show. So I clean them up and then lime sulphur. So just to show them off, really. The best way to get this to look good is let the sun dry them out naturally. And then start peeling off the little fibre. There's quite a bit of fibre on there. That's the best way.
What are you doing to clean them up?
Let the sun dry them out.
You said you clean them up before you put them on.
Oh, so I usually use, because they get dirty, right? Good question. They get dirty, okay? The gin and all the shari gets dirty. Toothbrush with water, scrub, and it cleans it up pretty quickly. Pretty good, simple, like cleaning. Don't use cleaning products, just use water and a toothbrush, old toothbrushes. Honestly, it works really well. Yeah, no electric, sorry. Unless you're really rich and you want to just use electric toothbrush. But yeah, normal toothbrush, old little toothbrushes, whatever. Have a few of them in a bucket of water. Keep switching between them. Clean them. Works really well.
Could you use an electric toothbrush?
Yeah, that's what they said down here. Have you tried it? Good.
No, I haven't, but I might.
I think it works really well. It works, he just gets the dirt off them, and then you just replug the lime sulphur. Lime sulphur is really easy to apply. It stinks like anything, but it's just simple. But once the wood's dry and clean, it will look great.
So I know someone asked, if you use lime sulphur on it, don't you?
Yeah.
Do you not, is that bother you that it might be too bright and white sometimes?
Not really.
There's a product you can get called Q-tip.
Yes, I know that. You told me that one. Yeah.
It's used for decking, but it's a really good product.
I thought that was to protect the dead wood from rotting.
It does. Well, it does both. It preserves, it protects, and it will also colour up into it.
Oh, really? All right, cool. There you go. Q-tip from what's it?
Paint store.
Oh, that's right. You told me that. There you go.
What about singeing?
Who said can't you?
Singeing with flames.
Alright, so good question. So now I wanted to get this tree finished and the lime sulphur on it. I'd get a little, not a blowtorch, but it's a much stronger little lighter, I guess. It's one of those little gun lighters, right?
Mm.
And you just burn off the fibre and let it dry out. It's just to burn off the little fibres. Like you'll come over and look at this, you'll see the fibre, tiny small little bit of fibre on there. It's to burn all that stuff off because it looks terrible once you put lime sulphur on it.
But would the blackening from that counteract with the white of this lime sulphur?
And then you brush it off.
Oh.
You brush it off and it goes away. Yeah, there's little things like burn it and then you just brush it off. Just like normal, you don't burn the wood like charcoal. It doesn't become charcoal. Just takes off all the very fine black.
When you get your electric toothbrush. No, just water. No toothbrush.
So there you go. I think that's a pretty good result. I think it's nice. I like it. Any questions on it? Rob, what do you think of it?
I think it's pretty good.
Sure?
It's pretty good.
Sure? It's pretty good. You happy?
Yeah.
I'll need a new pot eventually for it, but it should be, I think it tells a story now. Okay, go back to my imagination.
So what sort of pot? Shape?
Yeah, good question.
What would you pick?
I personally think this is, if you saw that white pine, Tony's white pine at the show, the one they were saying that goes like that, I like that ovalish. I think you've got a really nice black pine, that one that goes, a huge one, and it's an oval pot, isn't it? That's what I like, the deep oval, rather than a deep square or rectangle. I don't really like the two for these ones. If it was a proper cascade or semi-cascade, different story. But nice, deep oval look really good on this tree. It's a little bit tricky to get, but they look really nice. Quentin's got one of the best black pines that goes in this direction like that. And the pot is an oval, deep. It looks really good. Round, definitely going to get rid of it, but that's fine. But a nice oval pot. As I was saying, the story. The roots clinging to life. You can see them, they're holding onto the ground. It tells the story. This tree's got buffeted by the winds, whatever it is, killed off this side of the tree. This tree tried one stage to grow this way, tried to grow, but didn't work. Baffled this way, it's surviving on this side. It tells a story. That's how I imagine the design and try and execute the tree. We removed all the ugly bits. We did something with them. This was a terrible branch for me, and we made a nice little gin out of it. Tell the story. Terrible branch. Hit it by ginning it. Okay? Don't even know it existed before. Didn't need to use it. At the back, we'll just get rid of these cuts later. But they just have to go because they're too thick. And worked on. Yeah, I think you probably have to play around with the angle of the tree a little bit, but that's roughly what it is.
So great.
That's pretty good time. Right. I want to talk about this tree a bit. And I want to go through the process of what we just did, how with this tree. This hasn't got any wire on it. So I don't think we'll get to the wiring stage of this tree. But let's talk through it. Now, I'll tell you now, we'll be cutting branches off this tree today. Because we know certain things. Once we have the design of the tree in our heads, and we know what we want to do with it, we can actually make the cuts. I can wire this later on, I'll put it in the newsletter for you guys to have a look at what we come up with and how it comes out. But let's go back to talking about Let's get talking about all these points of the tree. How we design a tree. Let's go back to that stage, okay? Let's work through it. I'll give it a little spin. Now there's lots of foliage on it, okay? Probably can't see very well into the tree. What's some of the good points on this tree? Does anyone have some good points that are very obvious?
Not bad.
Say again? Nabari? Yeah, it's okay. On this side, not too bad. A little bit long here, a little bit, have to play around, but here's not too bad. Not bad, yeah, there. I think this side's also not too bad.
Movement's not bad.
Movement's quite good, right? The trunk movement's really quite good. Different, it's actually moving quite nicely and so on. Now, anything else? Now I'm going to show you some stuff because you can't see it from here. I'm going to open this up. Can you guys see that? It's pretty crazy, right? It's pretty crazy, the movement and so on in that tree, right? It's actually quite unique. I think it's a unique feature of the tree. So, when I say talk about good points, there isn't too many bad points on this tree. There are in the top, and we'll talk about that. But there's a really interesting feature in the tree. And it's this really crazy looking area in the middle or towards the top. It's really quite crazy. It's something that you want to enhance. Or for me anyway, I want to enhance this part of the tree. It's unique, it's interesting. But it takes away the Nabari. Remember I was saying Nabari is number one? But if you got some really cool feature in the tree that overrides the Nabari, you should try and focus on that unique feature. That's how I think, okay? Does that kind of make sense? So Nabari is the most important, but then you find this really cool thing in the tree that you've got to show it off. It needs to be part of it. So we give up a little bit of the Nabari, the best Nabari, the best root base for that feature. Bad points in the tree. If you look in here, it's going to be too hard to see anyway, but there's so much fat growth up here that's all at one point. There's like 3 really heavy branches from the one point. We'll have to make decisions on that. Okay, we'll do that. We'll make some decisions in there. But really what I want to talk about is that unique feature in the tree. There's something really special, really crazy. Let's enhance it. Okay? Now, the way I was thinking we can style this tree all I've done is put a little stick where I think the new front's going to be. Okay? So you don't have to, if the tree's plotted in here, you don't have to look at the tree this way, okay? You can change it and change it in every direction. So I think in here, the new front, and you can just still see some of the Nabari. You don't see all of it, these huge roots, but you see some of them. And it's actually like 70% of the Nabari that was at the best spot. We see 70% of it, but what we do see is the best feature really well. The unique feature of the tree. Does that make sense? Do you want to ask me questions on that? Like the unique feature of a tree that makes it so interesting? But one problem with the unique feature, what's the one problem with this feature right now at this angle? You can't see it. What else? There's one really important thing. What was that? Coming out. That's nice. Not too bad. It's actually quite. It's pretty. If you think about it, there was something about this tree at this point that was a real problem here. This branch. Do you remember what it was?
Big horizontal branch.
Correct. Horizontal. Who said it? Jerry. Well done. Well done, Jerry. It's horizontal at the moment. You see how it's horizontal? It doesn't look right. Okay. So what are we going to do to fix that? Tilted. Change the viewing, right? So this is a good. I'm going to find where I liked it. I have to actually remember where it was. Always tilt, move, bend, tip over, do whatever you can to find the best angle of the tree, okay? There's no harm in it. It's actually part of the design process. I think at the moment I'm going to tilt it this way, and it fixes up this part. It fixes it's not horizontal anymore. It slightly goes up. Can you see that? It slightly goes up. That's one idea. The other idea was to go the other way. But I'm going to leave it there. But do you understand what I mean by it's a really cool feature of the tree? It's really crazy in there, looks interesting. But what's now the problem is all this foliage. We've got to do something about all this foliage, okay? There's too much of it. And let's do some analysis on what branches we're going to keep, what we're going to get rid of, okay? Now, I will try and do this slowly so you can see. This is the back of the tree that you guys are seeing. There is one branch here at the back, this heavy one, right? Can you see that? It's actually a really good branch. It will really make a nice back branch. It fills in the perspective, gives you the three-dimensional look, and looks quite good. So I'm definitely going to keep the branch. So I'm starting to think, really look good. There's no really other back branches in the area. It'll make a nice branch and a good one to keep. But if I look at it closely, I'll show you what I'm saying. If I look at this branch closely, can you see it? See in here, you've got two nice little ones, and then this kind of crazy, out of control one. Too heavy, too no good. So you see what I have to see how you go about design. Getting rid of that, something that just looks ridiculous. It doesn't need, like that's what it was. Okay, it just looks out of whack. You need smaller branches.
So that's an uncut candle from a few years previous.
Yeah, they've just let that grow and grow and grow. So that's a candle that's probably 3 years, I reckon. It could be. And then that's the back branch, and we'll have to wire that at one stage and get it pulled down, fanned out, thinned out, go back to 2 everywhere. And it'll look really nice. You can imagine it there in the background, nice big fan, creating 3 dimension. So let's go back to the front. What do you guys see next? You see this? Do you guys see this? Do you see that? It's not a bad branch that's coming off it. It's actually got multiple branches. It's got a little bit of a straight part. It's going to be very hard to see, I know. But you've got a lower branch and an upper branch. Still only 2, which is good. So that means I can put a branch down like this, and then I can sit it on top and make another pattern. So it's a really good branch. So I'm going to keep it. Okay? And it works out well because there's one here towards the back. Go a bit further up, you'll find one on the side. So I'll go back to the front for you guys. We've got a back branch. We've got a nice, where is it? Nice side branch. Okay, let's keep going up the tree. It's a bit of a mess. Okay, the rest is the hard bit. Okay, that was the easy bit. The rest is, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to decide on? Which one's the best? What's going to be the best feature for the tree, and so on. I'm not sure if you can totally see in here and see some of these branches. You've got this really good branch, then you've got a little bit of a small apex, and then you've got this huge branch on this side. Okay, we've got to make a decision on this branch and this branch. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Is that reasonably clear? No, you can't see it? It's a bit hard to see, is it?
Yeah, it's pretty thick in there.
It's pretty thick in there. Alright.
It'll come up on video later, Dave.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the video doesn't work. So let's go back to understanding what happened here. This branch was almost as thick as this trunk. Okay? Can you guys see this branch on my left? It's really thick. There's no taper in the tree. There's not much taper, right? That's a problem. But it's got really good movement. Like it gives you that zigzag look really nice. This one is much smaller, but doesn't have the movement. But we can put the movement in, okay? By bending and wiring. So you think you know which one I'm going to take off? The big one. Does that make sense?
The thick one with all the movement.
Yes, the thick one's cool. So I'm going to get rid of that and we'll see if the tree looks any better, okay? And you'll see why I chose to get rid of it in a minute. Alright, now I'm going to bring it back. Now what do you see? You see an insane trunk, right? Don't you see how cool this is now? The big king, the gins, you can see it. You know, we can create another little gin in here, it's going to look really good. So by removing something that wasn't very good, we actually exposed the tree. It looks really quite unique. Remember, the best feature of this tree is in here, and we're showing it off. Does that make sense, everyone? That's all right? Alright, what are we going to do now? The other issue is what are we going to do up here? We've got the trunk, and we've got, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe. We've got 5, I think, or 4 in here. We're going to keep 2. This is where the camera would have been good, but that's all right. So we've got, can you guys see all those branches? We've got 2 on this side. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. There's actually 4. There's a small one in there, but we'll just get rid of that anyway. Alright, so the way we do this now is look at the front. Now, I'll show you something. That's quite flexible. That's just my hand doing it. See how I can move that quite easily? That's quite easy to move, right? So that straight part in here we can do something about. But what are we going to do with the other branch? And I'll explain my crazy thinking in a minute. There's a real good reason why I kept this back branch. Do you know what it is?
To go nice and low between that curve.
Yeah. Well, yeah, one thing. That's good. But in the top here, if I move this forward, some of these branches are really ugly at the back, up here. They're really ugly. And I need, to make a really good tree, I need this branch here in the front, and I need this branch here. We can only have 2, right? We can only choose 2. Can't have 3, 4. It's not going to work. So I'm going to have to eliminate the back 2 and try and do something with these 2 in the back to actually make a better tree out of it. Alright. So let's have a look at what that's going to look like. I'm going to cut them off. I don't know if Rob's going to let me work on any of his trees anymore. Oh, you're all. Okay, now you see why I had to get rid of them. There's 2 of them there. These 2 I need. Oh, there's a 3rd one actually. I don't need this guy. I think there's a little star or something. Oh, it's dead. So really now what we've done is reduce the main branches of this tree, the main branches, down to 2 everywhere. Okay? Down to 2, very important, and we keep working with it. Got any questions? Why I did what I did? adjust the front a little bit more now because of that really cool feature. It is quite unique, right? In there. Alright, how much time reckon, Barry?
Oh, I don't even know what time it is, Dave.
It's 9.
Yeah.
Have you got huge candles? How hard is it to refrain from cutting?
Needles. Large needles.
Candles.
Candles.
How hard is it to refrain?
Yes, it's very hard to refrain. I know some people break the candle in half, some people. I don't see the point. That's just aesthetics. I don't see the point of doing that. Just wait till someone, just be patient. Bonsai is all about patience, isn't it? You're watching trees grow, for goodness sake, you know, just watch it.
Look at it, those candles, a larger one. There'll probably be two that will be similar size, so it's easier to take the larger one out anyway.
If you've got two candles grow, like if you're in the refinement stage.
Yeah, if you've got a few of them and you've got the larger,
Yeah.
you'd usually have two that would be more similar size, so you should keep those ones.
Yeah, but that you do that in May when you bud select the two. But if you're, I think what Ty's talking about is in spring you get these massive candles growing. They just get huge, and you want to break them because it looks so terrible. Don't break them until. That's my opinion. Other people say different things, but my opinion is don't break them until. Don't take them off until December. Just be patient. Hang in there. All right. So I need to get wire in this trip. I don't think I'm going to have enough time to do it. But there's more the thinking process, all right? More what we were trying to do. Anyone got ideas? Anything else you want to ask me?
Just where would you go with your top now, Dave? Just walk your finger through the trunk line.
Yeah, okay, good point. I'll just set it up. You know, if I pre-wired this tree would have been good too, but it would have missed the fun. There is really good movement here. This is a nice feature, okay? This is a back branch. Now, this is the part I was telling you about. I would be trying to bring this right forward.
Over the gin, yeah?
Over the gin. Get this to be a pad in here. And then try and work something in the apex in here. Now, I will do the work at home and show you the updated tree next month, so make sure you come back next month. But that's just too much work. It'll be another half an hour to an hour of wiring. You're not going to want to sit through that, I don't think anyway. But the tree, this apex, if you see it, it's going backwards. Can you guys see how it's going back? Yeah. I'm going to bring it forward. And it's very, very flexible. I'll probably even use the guide wire as well if I wanted to. Bring it forward, wire it all out, create a new pad, create a new apex. Similar process to this. It's a very similar process. I don't want to take up too much time with this.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of time, but I can see what you're talking about. It's going to be stunning.
It's quite an interesting tree. It's really different. I mean, you could even change the design. You could even take this all off as well, and just have a tree on that side. Okay, you can see there's different ideas. Maybe Rob will decide, yeah, he wants to do that as well. But I wanted to keep this because there's not much back branching at all. Now, if we take that off, there's no back branches at all. Okay, it loses everything. There's just nothing there. So that's why this was a really nice branch to keep if you're going to design a whole tree in there. Okay, what else can we do? Any other questions? It's really a matter of questions. Again, if you want to hang around another hour for me to wire it, hang around.
I don't quite see the vision for the back branch. It's quite a long branch. Do you plan to drop it down a long way, or do you plan to twist it and shorten it?
It's twisting it. By twisting it around, I will shorten it. So if I twist this, see how it's far out there, if I twist this around in here, it's shortened it already by a massive amount, just to fill in the gap. There's just nothing there. I need something.
But it's not a plan to drop it right down.
No. I think I've just got to
So you want to keep a back branch
fairly high. If I put it too much down, then I've got to have another huge gap in here, and I can't do anything with it. So having it around in here gives you the depth, and just gives you, so it fills in that bare bit in there.
And will it then backbite so back
Yeah.
so you can push it back a bit?
Maybe or not. Maybe not. It's a good question. You never know with these trees.
They put a greens into those branches, match that really interesting.
Yeah, you got to. You can't have straight stuff in this tree. Yeah. So we'll wire it up and we'll have a look what it looks like next month. Or I might put it on the video if I finish it in time on YouTube so you guys can see. But that was more the decision-making process and the imagination part. Right. Any other questions? Unless you really want me to wire for another hour, which I don't think anyone wants to. Okay. Alright guys, that's really it for me, I think. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Just come and have a look. Buy some raffle tickets. So here's the continuation on the black pine demonstration that I was doing at Bonsai Northwest Melbourne. This is the second tree that I promised I would video and show you how it's going. Now, I've chosen this is the front at the moment. There's a massive bend I've put on the bottom, angle the change I've put on the pot. So I've had to put a lot of pieces of wood under there to try and line it up. This is the front lining up. Now, I've made the most of this beautiful curve in this tree. Got the gin out here, got the beautiful work backwards here. There's a gin in here, the old thick branch. And now I've wired up most of the tree except for this apex because I'm not sure how I'm going to put it in yet. But I'm going to actually now position all these branches to where I think the tree should be. And I thought I'd show you that process rather than the wiring process and just show you how I'm going to maneuver everything and try and put it in place. So hopefully I don't get my arms too much in their way. And we'll try and have a look at putting all these branches in place. I want to start with this back branch. Now, I just wanted to make it sit in the back there to give us the depth we needed for this tree. I'm hoping we can reduce the size of it. It's quite big still, but over time we can reduce the size of it. So, because there was not much branches at the back, I needed something to give us depth in there. And I think you can just make it out poking out the front, just here, just a bit further out than this. We'll see if that is suitable. Now I'm going to move on to this branch, and I'm going to try and drop it. Now I have reduced everything back to 2s. I'm missing a bit of wire on this one, but I'll put that eventually later on. I've cut everything back to 2s and I've needle plucked a lot of the old growth just so I can actually see the tree. I just have to put a bit of wire on that one. Now I've kind of moved this one into more of a front position because I want to start trying to create an apex with starting with this, and I'll have to bend and twist a lot of these branches to really compact them now. The good news is I was able to use this higher branch on this main. This branch had 2 kind of main branches, so I was able to use this higher one, actually push it back, looks like. So it's good news for me. I'm going to have some sort of back branches almost at the higher point, so it means the apex can come more forward, which is what I was trying to go for. So that's why I haven't wired the apex, because I want to make sure I can get all these in position first and see what I needed from the apex part. It's starting to take shape there. This is a good one. This is a very long branch. I'm going to have to see what we can do with that one too. Alright, so we started to form up a tree to this point, all this branching. Now I will have a look again closer up, see if I can remove anything more, but all this is a quite nice area. This is quite a nice area. I think this is okay. Back's a bit heavy. I'll see how it looks in the overall design. Now I'm just going to have to wire this apex in, because I want to set all these up first before I wire this, knowing how much I need to pull it down and create what I need in here, because I've got a lot of multiple branches in here. I've got 4 in one spot, so I really have to do my reduction. I wasn't sure which ones I need to do to reduce until I can get some sort of spacing so I can know where to put the branches. All right, so we'll come back and I'll wire all this up and then I'll put it in place and you guys can see how I go. So I've been able to pull the apex quite a way forward, and I've got wired this next branch here, which I'm going to set now. I've got 2 branches that just all nicely fork off. And I'm using this one more in the front, and I'm going to use this one more in the back, side to the back, to really create the symmetry of the apex. Because an apex isn't made of one branch, it's made of multiple branches. So I think I'm happy-ish with that one. That was a quick one. Once I wired it up, it's pretty easy to place it. Using the heavy gauge wire, 6mm, I was easily able to bend that apex forward. So now I've just got this little bit here left to wire. I'll just show you guys. There's this little bit. It's got about 4 branches. I may have to make a decision on which ones I'm going to keep. It's just going to sit in here and needs to fill out over time, because there's only got to go back to 2, unfortunately. I can't keep all of them. It'll just swell. It's starting to swell already at that point, at this junction here. And I've got to go back to 2. So I do have a nice back branch in here that's filling in quite nicely. So it's probably going to be one of the back branches that's really long. This one especially here, that's going to go. I'm going to keep the side ones maybe, or something like that. We'll have to work it out, because once I get rid of that, it's not too bad. Got this really nice young bit here that I could probably use to grow on, which is probably the better option. So regrow the top using this little bit. I knew I always had to regrow the top, unfortunately, on this tree. There's not much I can do. Because of all the growth, the heaviness up here. So I'm going to go and wire away, and we'll come back and position the apex. All right, so here's where I got to with the design of the tree. It needs a bit of time to fill out in the apex area, but it's actually done all right. It's going to be a little bit tricky spinning it because I'm on such a big angle, but we'll have a look. You can see the back branch. I was talking about how quite deep it is, but if that wasn't there, there's absolutely no back branching at all. So it needs to stay there. I like it. It's kind of unique for the tree. Coming around, I'll do that much and then I'll go the other way. So this is the other side of the tree. All looking good. Really good angles on all types of sides of the tree and so on. But now what we've done is really highlight some of the crazy features of the tree. Really big curves, gin out here, big go back in here, gin in there. Got the branching framing around this area here, the gin. That's lower than that. So a bit shorter on this side, creating a nice overall symmetry tree, overall tree here. The apex just has a couple of branches, unfortunately. Just needs time to fill in this area and it should be okay. Got a maybe a branch at the back here that needs to be replaced with a smaller branch. It's not ready yet. So eventually there's a small branch at the back that will replace this kind of heavy one that I've got doing around here. So there you go. So I promised I'd finish it, and that's the second tree done. And I'll show you the first tree that was from the demo, and I'll show you an update on that one after I've cleaned it up a little bit as well. And this is the first tree that I did. You got to see it in person to really see how good it is. It's actually quite a nice tree. As I said, really nice movement, interesting tree, nice semi-cascade. Will be a really good tree in the future. A really clear apex in here. Need a bit of filling time here. All that branch looks amazing. Really full. You see side on how good that is. Probably the most important thing is there's no bar branches or 3 or 4 branches at the one spot anymore. It's all down to 2 everywhere. So really just needs time to really settle in, fill out, bud back, and just keep growing. So there you go. That completes my 2 pine demonstration at Bonsai Northwest Melbourne. See you next time.